Hi, James.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm well also, doing the best I can in these strange times.
I know. You know, I often think about New York and New Yorkers because I have so many ties there because I came out to Minnesota after I graduated from college. I grew up in New York City and I think about them so much and what New Yorkers have gone through and continue to go through. And I know you came to Minnesota to attend McAllister, right?
Yes, I did.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. If you remember our rehearsal time, our rehearsal period for Oh My God,
Of course.
no. There's a reason why I wear all this St. Louis paraphernalia.
Yes, I
Or
forgot
a
about
Cardinals
that.
cap or a blues jacket or something, because you can take St. Louis out of the boy, but you can't take the boy out of St. Louis.
That's
I take that back. I got that backwards. You can take the boy out of St. Louis, but you can't take St. Louis out of the boy.
You know, I have so much in New York in my blood. Um, Similarly. Well, we first met when you appeared with the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company in Oh My God, in which you played God. And that's quite a role. Big shoes to fill. What was your mindset like each evening or matinee right before you went on to do the show?
Uh, if you don't mind, I'll take you back a little bit. It's because it was one of the most terrifying things. And the reason why is because I built my career in a majority of culturally specific theater companies. And to put
But not Jewish ones.
right, right. And but that was the thing. So for that to have been my background, it was important to me to get it right. And right meaning to have an idea of the difference between the Jewish concept of God and the quote unquote mainstream Christian concept of God. I was raised Catholic. I'm non-denominational now, and because of my background in culturally specific theater, one of the things that I'm open and aware to at all times when I'm watching theater is whether or not it remains true to the culture that it's trying to portray. And so that was, I think you were, no, you may not have been at rehearsal at the time that Robert and I sat down and I asked him, I said, I told him that, and I said, so talk to me about the Jewish concept of God. And it turned out to be very similar, but the approach was very different. I grew up Catholic, like I said, and so you don't question anything. You just follow. You kneel down. You kneel down when you're supposed to kneel down. You stand up when you're supposed to stand up. You beat your heart 3 times when you're supposed to, and you never ask questions. And one of the biggest revelations that I had in that whole process was from what, and I hope I say this right. One of the major tenets of the Jewish faith is to question.
Exactly. Yes.
And so what I ended up having to do was put myself in a frame of mind where I was going to seek answers, but to understand that questions were going to come back at me. And so it became part of the frustration was in not knowing how to answer the questions, because they were questions that this portrayal of God had never thought about.
Well, that being within that framework of constantly asking questions and hearing
Mm-hmm.
questions, did that impel the action forward?
Very much so,
Yeah.
because he not only did not, because he came seeking answers, which it occurred to me, which is what, when people go to temple, that's what they're doing. They're coming to seek answers, and the questions move, you know. And when the
Right.
questions move, it's hard when people turn and look at you for an answer. And the questions move. What do you do? And that's where it was. So it was one of the most fulfilling. It's one of my favorite roles in my career. It's one of my favorite
Really?
experiences. Yes.
I am
Yeah.
so thrilled that MJTC could give that to you.
And I am so thrilled that of the same thing.
And I if I have not expressed this enough, I will say again, what a gift you were to be a part of that show and be a part of the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company work. Really. I know that you knew August Wilson quite well.
Oh yeah.
You appeared on Broadway in
Radio
Radio
golf. Radio golf.
Radio Golf,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that it was in a role that he created for you.
Yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, did knowing him and being a part of his work have an influence on you both artistically and in a personal way?
In almost every way imaginable you can think of. I knew August before August was August. We had the pleasure at Penumbra Theater Company to do his first, to present his work professionally for the first time back in '83. I think we did Black Bart in the Sacred Hills. And the writing was you always knew the writing was something special, but just because something is special to you doesn't mean it's necessarily special to everybody else. And so when August went out to the O'Neill and Lloyd Richards looked at it and said, this is something truly special, the world needs to see this. It became, we all started beaming with pride, and it was like, okay, we've been a part of something really special. And you on one level, that, and on the other level, you go, okay, well, hopefully, now that you're big and famous, when I see you, you won't have forgotten about me. Well, when I saw it, not only had he not forgotten about us, he was almost the same cat, which people don't understand, that the August that I knew, that we hung out in. You're from here, or are you from New York?
I'm originally from New York.
Okay. How long have you been here? Because I'm going to start throwing out some reference points, and I want to make sure I'm not too dated.
And no, I'm sure you're not. The end of the 70s. But I remember reading about a newer playwright or an up-and-coming playwright sitting in a coffee shop writing. And was that Dinah's coffee shop?
Yeah. Well, we were
somewhere on Selby Avenue.
Yes. It wasn't. I'm trying to think. Was it really a coffee shop? Because to be honest, we spent more time in bars and restaurants.
Oh.
So it was Esteban's on Grand Avenue, which is now Dixie's, Sweeney's on Dale, and W.A. Frost, and the Commodore. So we're in all of those places. We're sitting and we're having conversations. I would love to say that they were all about theater and all of this and all of that, but what it ended up, a lot of it was just about the times and sports and what we thought, how we thought the world was supposed to be. And there would be August, Claude Purdy, Marion McClinton, myself, Terry Bellamy, Lou Bellamy, and we were just a group of friends sitting around, having conversations. And little did we know that we were sitting at a table in the presence of American theater royalty.
So that was before his work really became known.
Oh, this was one of the first stops that August made when he got to town was Claude Purdy, who was the friend who was responsible for him coming to Minnesota from Pittsburgh, brought him to a rehearsal. We were rehearsing the first show at Penumbra called Eden, and Claude was directing. And he came and he sat and he watched all of us. And later on, you found out that that was the moment where he realized that that was what he really wanted to do. He really wanted to be a playwright because he sat and he watched all of these people of color on stage doing, sharing stories. And he had been writing in Pittsburgh. And one of the things that as a Black artist, it was hard to realize, especially during the 70s, was that this was a path upon which you could make a living. It's funny, I've talked to young people now. I do some work at the U. I've had my own youth theater troupe several times. And I talked to them about when I became a Black actor, or when I became an actor, when you were Black and when somebody said to you, what do you do for a living? And you said, I'm an actor, they laughed because you didn't see it. You did not see it. There was Lou Bellamy, there was Warren Bowles, there was Fran Bennett over at the Guthrie, and that was it. So there were a bunch of us struggling, with this dream and trying to figure out, not just were we trying to acquire the skills, but we were trying to figure out, once we got the skills, where do you go? What do you do?
Well, Penumbra Theater has been such a amazing place and community for artists, and
yes,
continues to be. I know when I first became acclimated to the Twin Cities theater scene, some of the best work I have seen going back into the 80s has been at Penumbra. The craft that you see on that stage could rival anything.
Well, and at the time we didn't know. People continued their journey in various levels across the country. Marion went on to direct on Broadway. Abdul Salam El Razak went out to have a presence in Hollywood. Greg Williams has a presence in Atlanta. Tanya Jackson. I got a chance to go to New York and do some things. And what it all came out of was the same thing that August's write was a very similar thing to what August's writing style came out of. We wanted to tell our stories, and we wanted to tell them honestly and openly without putting any kind of particular spin on it to make them quote unquote acceptable to the audience. There are times when you want to be funny, there are times when you want to be serious, but most of the time, as a mentor of mine says, you want to make sure you don't get it right, you get it true. And when you get it, and when you get it true, it resonates across different barriers. It crosses race, it crosses culture, it crosses religion, it crosses a lot of things, because what's real is really real.
And it's human.
Yes. Yes.
That's one of the things that I have felt has been so important about the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company. The stories we tell are about Jewish history or culture, but what's below the words is humanity. the
Yes.
universal themes. I remember
Yes.
years ago, someone said to me regarding a play that I was planning to produce, which I did produce. But they said, why do you want to air dirty laundry? I mean, the events that transpire as part of a culture are most often universal.
Exactly.
And we want to tell that with honesty.
Yeah. And I have the major feeling that if more parts of the media told stories with that honesty, it would be harder for us to head in the direction we appear to be heading. Because if you understand why a thing happened, you'll be hesitant to repeat it.
Right.
And what's happening, one of the things that's happening now, without getting too political or anything, is that we're running into a question that I thought in my lifetime had been settled. What is the value of a human life? And we keep talking about these other things. And it manifests itself in so many different ways. We have to restart the economy. We need to start playing football again. We need to start playing basketball again. If one person dies in pursuit of money, something's wrong.
Yeah. Some of it just is who we are as individuals and the choices we make and the values that we have, the morality and the ethics and the values that we have. You have worked around the country in
Yes.
large houses and small theaters.
Yes,
and I'm sure that you've got friends all across the country and that you're in contact with them. What is your sense that artists are feeling right now?
We're terrified. And the reason that we're terrified is because we are our instrument. And to do the things that we have been trained to do, that we have made sacrifices for our entire life, our entire careers, we can't figure out a way to do a play social, keeping up the precepts of social distancing. I was on a call with the Twin Cities Liaison Committee. I'm on the Equity Liaison Committee. And we were talking about what needs to happen for theaters to open. And most of the conversations, talk about rehearsals or talk about the audience or talk about, and all of those things are important. But what dawned on me is what I'm the most concerned about is that imagine us trying to do Oh My God and stay 6 feet away from each other. Imagine us trying to, and I know that's a loaded situation that eventually will be solved. But what I'm concerned, people, and rightfully so, actors are concerned about, artists are concerned about.
Absolutely.
How do I make a living? If I don't do this, how am I going to make a living? And we face those questions time and time again. There are certain things that when you decide this is the way you want to live, you end up, you face, how the challenge becomes how I'm going to make my weeks for my health insurance, and it comes down to, if I hustle and go to as many auditions as I can, percentages say I'm going to book jobs, I'm going to build a fan base, I'm going to do all of those things that will make things work out. But there is no work right now. Theaters are closed, which I know theaters are closed, therefore there's no work weeks happening. Therefore, there's no money to go into the fund that pays for that helps us pay for our insurance. everything has gone from zero, from 100 to zero, and no one knows what to do. And we're in conversations trying to figure out what to do. So it puts us in the level of when you do theater on Zoom or you do theater on the internet, how do you pay for that? How do you pay an actor for that? You're reluctant to pay them like you can when there are audience members coming in and there's income coming both ways.
I'm trying to figure out what comes next.
Yes.
Whether it be this summer, in the fall, in the winter. Yes. And I've had some conversation with Actors Equity, but I've thought about the weekly compensation, the weekly salary. I really hadn't given much thought to the need to keep paying in, which we do, for
yes.
health and pension.
Yes.
And I guess maybe that's something I should think more about, because it's so important.
Yeah, but there has to be a two-way street. You have to have income for you to be able to support it through Outgo, which supports our income, which allows it. And like you said, this is brand new. Nobody was prepared for this. Nobody ever thought that the artistic director of the Guthrie would say, we're shutting down till March 2021. No one thought that Broadway would say,
shut down.
Right. Broadway closed down for 9/11 for a short period of time and then kicked it back into gear. And we do what then artists do what artists do. We pull together and understand that it is part of our job to encourage people, to lift their spirits, to take their mind off of the day-to-day thing that they're going through and place them down in another situation that inspires hope, inspires determination. We feed the human spirit and people take it for granted. But what happens when all of a sudden there's nothing for us to do? And I just realized it. I woke up this morning and was wondering why I've been in sort of a malaise for the past couple of days, and I realized it. I'm an adrenaline junkie. That's one of the beautiful things about being an actor. Every day you have a show or you have a rehearsal, there's an adrenaline drive that runs through your body that gets you up, and it feeds your creativity. It defines who you are.
Well, as a society, we need that because theater does have such an important role in feeding our souls.
Exactly.
And so I am optimistic. I look forward to the time that we can gather together back in a theater, but I'm realistic. And so I'm also thinking of ways to be innovative so that artists can continue to gather until that time and continue to feed our culture right now.
And I thank you for this opportunity because this is one of those things.
Well, thank you so much for talking this morning. I really appreciate it. It's so great to talk with you.
I enjoy it. You fast becoming one of my favorite people in the business. I love your passion. I love your devotion to the desire to share a story, and not just to share a story, to make it be a conversation where we present this thing and then we sit down and we talk about it. How did it affect you? What do you think? How can you carry this with you in your life? And to me, that's why I got into theater. I was amazed to find out that all of that came out of a play.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, it's so great to talk to you, and let's talk soon.
Oh, you got it.
Okay. Have a good day.
You do the same.